The California Restaurant Association's proposed assembly bill would exclude employees like valets, hairstylists, food servers, and all other workers in the state who get tips from receiving a minimum wage increase. Here with a look at potential impacts are my guest, Robert Notoff, research and policy analyst with the Center on Policy Initiatives, and Sean Carafin, public policy and economic research director at San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. And Sean, why does the Chamber support the Restaurant Association's bill that would freeze this minimum wage?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. This bill is something that I think plays on the impact of minimum wage on our entire economy and on the business industry. So if you look at the issue of poverty in general, to continue to hammer on minimum wage has a real impact on businesses. So this is one way that tipped employees, we can look at tipped employees in a little bit of a different way to make sure that it doesn't put a lot of businesses under.
Briefly, if you could tell me maybe the key way that this minimum wage is impacting or might impact the economy.
Absolutely. There are so many businesses out there that are on a very thin margin as far as revenues and profits. The restaurant industry the research shows between 4% and 6% as far as a profit margin. If their increase in their labor line item goes up 20, 40, 60%, that has a real impact on their ability to succeed and keep their doors open.
Let me get from Robert here. What is the minimum wage right now in San Diego, and how is that slated to change?
Sure, Peggy. So again, thanks for having me on. And the current minimum wage in San Diego is in line with that of the state. So it's currently at $9 an hour and set to go up to $10 an hour on January 1st of 2016. However, the City Council passed an initiative that would have raised the minimum wage to $11.50 by 2017, and voters will have an opportunity to vote on that on June 7th of 2016, and that would benefit 172,000 hardworking San Diegans, give an increase in pay to 1 in 3 women, reduce the gender gap by 22%, give 40% of Latinos an increase in pay, and also give 1 in 4 African Americans and APIA residents in San Diego an increase in pay.
So this is what the raises would do. What are your concerns, or I should say CPI's concerns, about this proposal?
Well, this proposal is nothing more than just an insider lobby group that wants to try to carve themselves out from having to do their due diligence. We see a widening gap of inequality here, a reduced middle class here. And what we really wanted, what the Restaurant Association is trying to do is pin it on the backs of like their actual employees and pitting the front of the house versus the back of the house. And it's a very just disingenuous move, right? They're exempting bellhops and a number of other tipped employees from having to raise the. Yikes.
Okay, that's okay.
Sorry,
no, I understand what you're saying, that this is I think it was brought up by the Restaurant Association about this inequality, that cooks and people in the back of the restaurant don't get these tips the people in the front get. Let me ask Sean, though, this about the minimum wage. What kind of support are you hearing from businesses for or against the minimum wage initiative for this balance, for the one coming up on
absolutely.
the ballot?
Well, what we've already seen is that the state moved up from $8 and $9 fairly recently. They're moving up to $10. So that might just sound like $2, but it's $2 an hour. That's 25%. So that line item for labor is already going up 25%. Now we're talking at the city level, should we increase it to $11.50? There's actually a bill at the state talking about should we increase it to $13 an hour. So it just keeps going up. We keep hammering on this idea that we can eliminate poverty by raising minimum wage, and the research just doesn't show that.
There's some discrepancy on that research, but I want to get to this, and I want to start with Robert, with you first. I'll ask you as well. San Diego is the 8th largest city in the country. We have a very high cost of living. I think we can all agree on that. But tips aren't consistent or guaranteed income. Robert, what would you think about this idea of a mandatory tip on all bills, a 15 or 20% tip, so that the employee would be guaranteed to get that money?
Well, I think that would move things in the right direction. However, that's not exactly what AB 669 is really aiming to do here, right? AB 669 is, again, trying to lower the wage. What a minimum wage increase should really be about is raising the floor for all workers, and we want to make sure that waiters, waitresses, and tipped workers are able to make ends meet, right? We shouldn't be punishing folks for making additional income and being able to make
I want to get Sean's take on that. Do you think the chamber or businesses would support that? As far as having a 15% mandatory tip on all people if the minimum wage wasn't raised?
If the minimum wage is increased, I think that's what restaurants are going to do by themselves. I think they're going to stop this idea of tipping at whatever percent you want, and they're going to start to do it. That way they can divvy it up between the front of the house and the back of the house. So I think that could be where we're going, but it's still an increase in the direct costs to businesses, which means that some businesses are not going to succeed. They will close their doors, and there will be some people that lose their jobs.
And Robert, if this proposal to exclude tip workers became law, how would it affect workers in other cities, for instance, Berkeley and Oakland, who right now are already making $12 an hour? Would their wages decrease then?
Well, that's why we're calling this a Trojan horse. So 82% of the electorate in Oakland, for example, this past November passed a minimum wage that would raise the minimum wage to $12.25 for all workers, including tipped workers. This provision within 669 states that if it doesn't reference, if the local minimum wage increase does not reference this bill, then it automatically inserts the sub-minimum wage and reduces it down to $9 an hour for tipped employees. And so that's something where the electorate would have to, again, vote on this all over again.
Sean, I'm sorry, we are out of time. There is so much more on our website. It's a short interview here. Sean Carafin and Robert Notoff, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.